and greetings. Welcome back to another session of the course titled Academic Speaking and Presentation Skills. Today we are going to go through a wonderful session which is going to be very beneficial for future. The topic is very crucial from the syllabus. The topic is understanding interviews. Let's see what are we going to cover. Yes, the very first is what is interview, which is very foundational and basic, but however much required to understand and interpret the impression that it gives, right? So therefore, what is interview? We are then going to learn the process until that a candidate must follow before the candidate gets the opportunity for an interview. We are then going to see the checklist flow, right, before the interview. Also, we are going to cover the types of interview. Then we are going to see the skill checked during the interview process, and at the end we'll have the well-rounded summary. So without wasting any further time, let's move to the first topic. What is an interview? When we speak of what is interview, you must understand that interview consists, right, to be a process that is not the initial one. Many of us believe that, the first thing that we will get to do is interview, and once I'm selected in an interview, I'll go, right? But there are tons of processes that will lead you towards an interview, and one of those is, yes, building a good resume. So you can see over here that resume is the first written interaction and interview is the first personal interaction. Right, so first written interaction often involved with an organization seeking for job, right, and showcasing specialized skills would be resume. However, in an interview is the first personal interaction in form of a formal meeting where a group of employing individuals must not be thought as interview is being, whoever the employers are would be a part of that interview with already existing employees, right? So therefore, it is group of people who will select the new employee to be a part of the same organization. So that is the very basic and that is the very foundation, right, of what we think of an interview is. Must not forget, the first written is resume. The first personal interaction in meeting would be an interview, right? Then we have the whole list of how do we see the whole process until we are selected, until we get an opportunity for an interview. And you can see that this is just 5 simple steps, right? First is conducting job research, very crucial, right? We might not apply anywhere and everywhere because interview can be received, right, at multiple places, but you must know what you are seeking for, and that is why a job research is very crucial stage, and that is the first stage that will lead you towards a good interview, right? Then after that, once you do the job research, you will do the job listing. You will see which are job listing can be done in 2 ways, right? These are the 2 different ways. First is traditional. You will always see a newspaper, especially when we talk about, if it is in Gujarat, we have Gujarat Samachar, which will have, job fair kind of a page wherein all the job opportunities are mentioned. So that is the traditional way, right? Newspapers or news medias or pamphlets, right? And electronic means is actually going to particular websites on various social media platforms which are not, specifically for connecting socially, but rather connecting professionally, such as LinkedIn, such as Naukri.com, right? So electronic is basically visiting websites of individual organization that you might have listed out during job research, and it will help you a lot. So applying through this means will you will have to then build a resume, an application message will take you to the other process. So that would be third process, right? First is conducting the job research, second is doing job listing at various platforms, right? After that we are going for application through resume. After resume, right, this is an additional step. Nowadays, be it in academics, be it in any kind of corporate sector, one must require a portfolio. So build a good portfolio of the work that you have done, with the pictures that you have taken, with the certificates that you have received, with the work that can be displayed, and that would be a good enough proof, right? It would be substantial enough to be saying that this is authenticate, right? So therefore a good supplement portfolio would help you to directly get to the most important and crucial stage, that is interview. So we now know that interview is not just the first footstep, but rather one of the very crucial one that will require other footsteps, steps 1, steps 2, step 3, step 4, and the fifth one would be interview, right? But what if you follow all of these steps and you get an interview? You do not follow these steps, but you have applied somewhere through different means, right, through personal means, and you get to an interview. Even then, crossing an interview is not that easy. So you will have to take care of certain things before the interview, right? There are very serious cases that I'll discuss, while we are going through another topic, that is discussing the strategies to clear an interview, right? You need to understand that these steps are not mentioned haywire. These steps are very crucial and important because they actually bring you towards the success of interview. These are the binding force. These are the very basic, essential and vital requirements for appearing to an interview. So first you get the chance and opportunity for an interview. Now is the time that you prepare. What do you prepare for an interview? How do you prepare for an interview? These are not the tips, but the simple steps that one must follow before the person reaches to the point of interview. And the very first is thoroughly prepare your documents. How do we thoroughly prepare our documents? The people might misunderstand this first step only to be preparing a document of resume, right, or maybe the CV. But it is not just that. You will have to take care of all the documents, your original mark sheets, your original identity card, your nationality card, or maybe something that gives a valid proof, right? So then a lot of document, your passport size photos and various. See, if you are going and appearing for a good company and institute, they will already mention those documents in a kind of a list that you must carry, right? If you already have a work experience, you will also have to carry your last work slips, and there are salary slips that are considered. So therefore various things, right? So when we say that prepare your documents, right, it is not document, it is documents. And therefore have a good checklist of everything that you can take to the place of an interview. It should not be that you are capable enough, but just because there are less proof of your validation that this is sincere enough and this is authentic, you might not be selected. So especially when it is MNCs, right, taking up an interview, they will have a lot of things to check on the very day of an interview. So while you are going, right, while you are appearing for your interview round, your meeting, before the meeting, after the meeting, there will be a thorough check of all the documents. So see to it that you pay equal importance to preparing documents. Then we have learn about the market trends in your field, right? Before an interview, this is very much necessary, right? We do not know, while we are working already at some place or while we are not working at all, it is important for us to know and see and talk about to different people about what is happening in the field, in the market, right? What are the simple steps that one is following? What are the basic, if you I'll just give you an example. If you are a software developer, right, then you must be aware, if when we are speaking about market trends, you might have learned the Java language, but apart from Java there is PHP, right? Then apart from the PHP, we also have a hybrid language called as Flutter, React Native, right? We also have, iOS or Swift languages. So then what are these different languages? Application developed on Android as well as iOS would be the mixed language, right? So therefore, there are website languages that one needs to learn. You need to be aware of what is used where and how, and if we are talking about hybrid languages, React Native was again very, what do we say, traditional. We have Flutter in trend right now. So why people are starting to learn Flutter, right? Python, when it came, was very much in market. Why? And where it is useful? Is it useful only at the back end, or it will also be useful at the front end? So all of these market research and trends are very much required. So this is one, right? Learn about the market trends. Then is learn about organization appearing for an interview. This is again most crucial thing, that people might be very confident regarding their content, people might be very confident regarding their resume and professional skills, but at the same point of time there are organizations that are looking for actual religious as well as dedicated employees, right, for the institution. So it is a very bad impression that an interviewee might leave if one is asked about the question regarding the organization where the person is interviewing. So coming out from a very personal experience, I would say that you must learn about the organization that you are appearing for an interview. And last but not the least, when you have the documents, when you know the market trends, when you have learned about the organization, you definitely, because you have been selected for an interview, we assume that you have the professional skills. You can go back to the very basics to the advanced level of interview preparation regarding your professional skills. And last but not the least is your personal appearance. So when we talk about personal appearance, yes, definitely all kind of groomings while you are into a meeting. If it is a close meeting, your hygiene will be observed through your nails. Your hygiene could be observed through what kind of if you are to be a male candidate, the beard or the mustache that you keep, right, how it should be, your hair that you have toned. If you are a female candidate, right, for you also, what kind of jewelry that you are wearing, right, is it very noisy, is it calm and subtle, is it going with the professional ambience that is there, right? If you are not wearing, well and good, but if you are wearing, you have to be very subtle with it, right? Again, how do you put your hairs if you are a female candidate? Will you keep it open and loose, or would you tie up in a way that is very professional? So all of these personal appearances, and what kind of clothes definitely you wear, right, you choose to wear, the colors that you choose to wear, all of these will add up to your personal appearances. And then comes the interview, the final day. So before the interview, the process that one must do, and if one is selected, what one must do entering the meeting hall. So before there are various checklists. So 5 and 5 we have gone through 10 different points that will help you to understand the whole interview process. Interview is the final stage. When we say that understanding interview, we must be very aware that it is understanding the whole process that is there and not understanding what can happen, because when we speak about interview, every interview will have different aspect, right, will have different interviewers, will have different organization, and combining will bring out a different what do we say, experience for every individual. So this, what happens inside the interview is not very, yes, we'll definitely learn the strategies of interview that will help you to lessen the fear of unknown, right? But however, very sharply I would like to say that this, whatever happens inside the interview room, is still a mystery, right? So it depends on a lot of things and a lot of combinations, but what we have in our hand and how do we reach to the point of interview where we want to be, right? These are the 10 simple steps that we need to follow. First is understanding the whole process until interview and doing those processes, and then preparation before the interview that an individual must prepare. Now these are the starking facts, right, as per Hindustan Times, right? Recent Hindustan Times report says that, 45,540 individuals fail every day in an interview. So this is the stark reality of India when we speak of employment, right? We must not consider that we'll get through all the interview processes, right? And at the same point of time, think that this is the number of failures. Understand, how many people would be applying for an interview. Very few would be getting selected, right? With n number of MNCs, with n number of local companies and various others, I believe the number would be more. But however, when we believe the data coming from newspapers, right, this is the current scenario. So not to fear, but to understand how this interview works. So again, understanding the process of interview, we would first go through different types of interviews that are there, right? When we speak of different types of interview, there are n numbers of interview types subdivided from campus and off-campus interview, right? From campus is basically an interviewee going to the place where interviewer is calling them, the designated place of an organization or a company, right? And then we need to understand that off campus is basically through the virtual means. Each type of interview has different agenda to look for specific skills as per organizational requirement. So depending on, it is not necessary that all of this different type of interview will be conducted upon every individual. We must understand that this might vary. These skill-based interviews are conducted to select best candidate from the target audience. Here we can see different types of interviews that are mentioned, whereas we can see that the 6 major types of interviews are screening interviews, executive selection interviews, group interviews, stress or either panel interviews, walk-in interviews, and virtual interviews. The major purpose behind each interview is different. Again, there are various rounds. It is a myth to understand that these interviews are basically, of only one particular round. So once you appear, candidate has an idea that once we appear for an interview, that is once for all, it's done, and then there will be final selection. But we might forget the very basic and the fundamental rule that these interviewers have different skills in mind to check, and therefore these many different types of interviews could be selected. So there could be multiple rounds of interview that a candidate might have to go through. So therefore this we'll see in detail what are the 6 different types of interviews and what skill do they check. The very first comes screening interview. When we speak of screening interview, the aim and the purpose of this is to select the target audience related to the vacancy that is there. So they will check for the number of applicants, and they will select out of the whole lot of the application. They will select purposely few certain that might be more relatable towards the interview to be conducted. Therefore, the authorities sitting in this interview would be HR officials and supporting staff who would be able to check the audience or the applications that are there. The skills targeted in this screening interview are matching the job description or not. They will look for the authentication of the data that is being sent through either in resumes or different documents that the applicant or the candidate might have given in. And therefore this is actually the very first and the ground level of interview that happens. So this could be into one-in-one room, and there would be verifications of data that are given, or there could be actually just a different procedure for the same. But many MNCs and where we talk about the local companies, in corporate sector, this is the very fundamental and the first round of interview that happens. Second comes the group interview. Now out of the selected screened candidates, right, and if not, there would be multiple applications that are thoroughly checked. So therefore the purpose of this group interview is to select few exceptionals from appearing lot, right? So therefore it is actually picking out few of the selected members from the whole different group, and these could be majorly seen at a lot of institution academic selections that they take. So group interviews are basically taken more for the institutional and organizational format. The authorities that will be sitting in this group interview would be managing staff and the subject experts. So there is a special requirement of the subject experts who is going to check, verify the data and the knowledge and the expertise of an individual, and based per the expertise, the candidates and the applicants might be selected. Over here, the skills required are subject skills, interpersonal skills, and communication skills that is checked in. This is usually the second round that takes place into MNCs or any corporate or local or institutional places. So this again, number of round is basically at which point an candidate would be having to appear this particular type of interview. So group interviews are basically the second sort of sorting out from the applicants and candidates. So therefore we move on to the third or type of interview that is titled as panel interview. Now when we speak of panel interview, it is very important to keep in mind the aim and the purpose of it, to introduce few from the defined lot, right? So again, when we have selected already the picked ones, right, or even if there is no first round or second round and directly there is a panel interview that takes place, right, what happens is applicants and candidates have been selected based on the resume and the data that is provided with therein, right? Or maybe if there is already a first round of group interviews, then they are also selected based on the subject knowledge. Now this, when it comes to panel interview, a lot of members are present, a whole different panel. The name itself suggests, right, it's self-explanatory that there is a whole lot of panel that will sit for the interview, and therefore they will check in every minute skill that is required. So therefore authorities that are involved in this panel interviews are colleagues, management, department, experts, even if there are, you know, the owners that are there, right? So from the very bottom to the highest level of the panel could be given the designating post, and therefore panel interviews are extremely crucial interview purpose that is done. And this is usually the final, or the maybe it's, if not in different rounds of interviews are done, this could be the first and the foremost, right? Once for all, this would be the final interview panel. Again, there are different other types that would come. Again, there is executive selection interviews. Now, these kinds of interviews are basically done for the higher position. If there are positions available for HR, if there are positions available for, you know, the senior manager or architect in terms of development, right? These interviews, executive or selection interviews, are there for their purposes. So to select one exceptional who suits best for the job. So out of a lot, there are not multiple level of vacancies, or, you know, there are no place filling for multiple people. So therefore this executive selection happens only for one individual. And again, the authorities that are involved over here are similar to the panel interview. There will be HR officer, there would be departmental managing staff, there would be executive staff who would be interacting with the interviewee. So a candidate and applicant, if it is applying for executive and selection interview, will have to go with the highest preparation over here. The skills in check definitely is the uniqueness, the expertise of the candidate. This appears as again the third or the final or the first and foremost round of the interview. Then there are different types. Again, we move to another different type, that is walk-in interview. Now, what happens in walk-in interview is there are multiple applicants. The employer will have no background or any details about the candidate who might appear for this kind of interview. So the purpose is to select few exceptional from multiple. Again, there will be department managing staff, all executive staff, and multiple level of authorities involved in such walk-in interviews, right? The skill checks is not only about the expertise, but it's also about, you know, multiple interpersonal skills that are there, communicational skills that are there. So how does an applicant or a candidate being completely new to an institute or an organization would walk in into a place and will be able to make that connect? That is more important in walk-in interview. So that includes multiple round within itself, right? So could be possible whenever there is a walk-in interview, right? You need to understand there is no first written interaction that we have covered, right? So first written interaction is basically resume that will speak for you. But in walk-in interview, you first go and, you know, interact orally, and then submit your written whatever documents that are there. So be it your resume, your approach has to be very different than the other interviews that you take in. So have to be very serious. This is again walk-in interview. Last but not the least is, you know, virtual interviews. Now, what does virtual interview mean, right? With the COVID and the era that we have passed on, we know that these are in trends now. Virtual interviews could be done in multiple types, right? There could be telephonic interviews, there could be video interviews, and there could be others. But the major purpose over here is again to select a candidate who has good communication skills, even not present, you know, face to face, will be able to communicate the ideas, will be able to communicate the thoughts, and will be able to show the professionalism and expertise that the person has. So therefore, aim remains the same. Also to showcase the IT skills. Now we know that with the developing time in contemporary times, the importance of technology is very high, and therefore at many times now, though we are not going through the COVID time period, we need to understand the importance of, you know, this technology handling. So therefore it is important for us to identify that technology is very crucial to know and learn, and virtual interviews could be taken on purpose as well. So that is about virtual interviews. The authorities that would be involved in this would be HR expert as well as the management team. So skill in check would be definitely the expertise of the candidate involved, right? In verbal, that is the communication that we speak to, and all the other required skills. The round that is there could be multiples, as I have spoken. This could take in, different shape, and that you can see it on the screen. That is through telephonic way of interview, through video, interviews. Again, when we talk about virtual interviews, there are well in advance videos that are asked from the applicants or the candidates. So they are asked to record their own videos. They are asked to speak about their skills, their expertise, and the basic questions that any of the interviews would have. So the foundational data that is there would be fetched from the videos itself. So therefore, video or the virtual interviews are very crucial in today's time. So multiple MNCs have been practicing this. Speak about Infosys, speak about TCS, speak about Lynda. These are the companies that are asking for this virtual or video interviews as well, right? So it could come in telephonic, it would come in video form, or it could also come into case interviews, right? So wherein an individual appears for one-to-one meeting, is asked to solve the certain cases. For any developer, or technical analyst or architect is given a problem on the screen, and one have to resolve because of, we know, the developed AI. What people do is generally they would go for cheating means and different kind of means in virtual interview. The candidate is asked to share the screen online and perform the whole task while the whole different group of panelists checking how an individual is going through one single line of code and multiple things. So even if you are from the field of technology, this is very important for you. So these are different types of interviews that a candidate or an applicant would have to go through, and will have to be very careful before you are putting up the application, where and how. So that is all. Right, it's the time for well-rounded summary. I hope that you have got enough of the data through what is interview, how these interviews can be handled, right? When we speak of interview, definitely all of us had the basic idea about it, right? But nobody of us have thought about the minute details that would matter in this particular case. So therefore, I would request you to understand this basic linearities that come into every of the section of interview, right? The 10 steps that we had discussed are also very crucial, and this is the time to definitely go around all the things that we have covered in today's session. So the summary of the session would be that individual must follow proper steps to get into an interview. Interview is not the first step to reach any organization or a place. The first step, again, there are multiple procedure that the one needs to follow to get into interview at the first place. And again, if one is getting the chance to be at an interview, one needs to first and foremost fulfill all the other criteria, have to take care about the other things. Interview is the first personal interaction, we know that, and resume is the first written interaction. The other thing that we have to note over here is different types of interviews are conducted depending on the skill check. So now different types that we have covered, all the 6 different types would give you a definite impact if you know about this from the very advance. So you can ask this before appearing on the day of the interview towards whosoever is communicating to you about the interview, or if not, you can always go on the helpline or website and ask and see the procedure that is there. So there are different types of interviews that one might face during the process of interviews. Again, at the end, an organization may conduct multiple level of interviews and shortlist a candidate for the job that is desired. So these were the important details about interview that you must know. In the next very session, we will cover different tips to concretely win this interview session. So laws which are unsaid but must be followed, right? Hope that you have liked the session, and thank you for having the patience. I would join you with a different topic in the next class. Thank you.